Welcome to another Safe Schools Rainbow Roundtable episode. I'm your host, Dr. Dan, and today we delve into a theme that resonates deeply within our community, LGBTQ+ representation in media and its evolution over the years. We'll journey through its evolution and its significant role in shaping societal perceptions and attitudes. In our historical overview, we'll travel back in time to understand the origins and transformation of queer representation in media, from stereotypical portrayals to rich, nuanced narratives. Then, in real-life experiences, we'll share poignant fictional stories that illustrate the deep impact of media representation on individuals' lives. These narratives highlight the importance of seeing oneself reflected in the media. Moving forward, our Tools and Resources segment will spotlight 7 exceptional shows and films authentically representing the LGBTQ+ experience, showcasing how diverse storytelling can enlighten and inspire. Finally, in the Future Outlook, we'll discuss Safe Schools initiatives and our vision for the future of LGBTQ+ representation, emphasizing the need for continued progress in diverse genres and spaces. From the small screens in our living rooms to the vast expanse of digital media, representation has been a powerful tool in shaping perceptions and attitudes. Studies have shown that exposure to queer characters in media can significantly increase acceptance and understanding. It's not just about being seen, it's about the quality of this visibility. Queer representation does more than just combat stereotypes. It normalizes and validates the existence of diverse sexualities and gender identities. It's crucial for our community, especially those still finding their place in the world, to see reflections of themselves in stories being told. But it's not just about the present. The true power lies in how these stories are told and how diverse and intersectional these representations are. As we explore this theme, let's remember that representation matters, not just in the quantity, but in the quality and diversity of the shared narratives. Now, I'd like to give a moment for our esteemed panelist. This is Harold Marrero. He is the COO of Safe Schools and executive producer of Rainbow Roundtable. Harold, any first thoughts about LGBTQ and media?
Well, we've come a long way, but there's still so much more for us to do. So I'm excited to be talking about this very important subject, and I'm sure that our diverse panel today will have a lot to say about it.
Absolutely. And now we have Tiffany Williams. She's a social media expert, host of the television show Tiffany Explains It All, and the director of outreach for Safe Schools. Tiffany, I imagine you're passionate about LGBTQ+ in the media?
Extremely passionate. It's super important. As someone who is a bisexual woman, there has been some representation of women like me, but viewed in a more promiscuous, scandalous kind of way.
Ooh.
And we can be that, but we can be so much more. So I look forward to talking about it today.
I look forward to it too. And then we have Eddie Mora. Eddie is a prominent social media influencer, host of the TV show The Tea with Eddie, and a Safe Schools TV producer. Eddie, any thoughts on the tea of LGBTQ+ and media?
I feel like we all watch TV, right? But we all want to feel represented. And I feel like there's still a lot of storylines that need to be told that are binge-worthy for us to watch. So, I'm excited for that in the future.
Awesome. And now we have Harrison C. Davies. Harrison is the marketing manager at Bottom Line Concepts. Harrison, can you tell us a little bit more about Bottom Line Concepts?
Well, Bottom Line Concepts has been in business for 15 years. It was founded as a contingency-based financial firm specializing in small businesses, which I think is a huge outlet for the LGBTQ community. Under BLC, big exciting announcement. We recently launched our partnership with Shark Tank's Mr. Wonderful, so that's been a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz surrounding that. Recently pushed it to a much higher degree, really excited to report on that. That doesn't keep me busy enough. Serve on the alumni board on my alma mater, Miami Country Day School, where I went for 13 years, and I'm a committee member at the Miami Children's Museum and Ellie's Army. So I'm just excited for you guys to have me here.
Busy guy.
Yeah.
And finally, we have Taya Harlan. She is the Public Relations Director of Reflect. Taya, can you tell us a little bit more about Reflect?
So Reflect Collective is a nonprofit in Miami, and we help queer trans people of color who are domestic and sexual violence survivors. And we do different programming throughout the year. But our 2 biggest programs are our queer QTPOC grant, where we help them, and then Queer Fest, which is a variety show every April.
That's awesome. You do important work in our community. Thanks, Taya.
Thank you.
Let's shift our focus to the future outlook. In this segment, we'll discuss how Safe Schools brings these conversations to the forefront and look to the future of genres that can benefit from LGBTQ plus representation. As we bring our discussions to a close, let's reflect on the impactful steps Safe Schools has taken and our vision moving forward in championing LGBTQ plus representation and education. In response to the challenging Don't Say Gay law in Florida, Safe Schools pivoted our focus, creating digital content that educates, entertains, and empowers. Our programs are a tapestry of the diverse South Florida LGBTQ plus experience, expertly crafted to engage viewers on multiple levels. Our show, Tiffany Explains It All, is a beacon of light, offering youth and young adults a queer lens on popular culture. From anime to movies, Tiffany delves into the now while uncovering the often overlooked LGBTQ plus threads that have woven through our history and influenced modern media. Then we have The Tea with Eddie, which takes a deeper dive into these topics, unraveling their historical, political, and social implications. It's a show that educates and sparks important conversations in our society. And of course, there's this platform, the Rainbow Roundtable, a collaboration with Happening Out Television Network. Through this partnership, we've expanded our reach and impact, bringing vital discussions to the forefront on issues affecting students, teachers, and parents. Our digital reach has been impressive. With over 500,000 viewers worldwide and content showcased in classrooms from Japan to Alaska, we're making waves. Our Queer History 101 series, a direct response to Miami-Dade Public School Board's decision, serves as a beacon of knowledge and representation, shining a light on LGBTQ plus figures in history. So panelists, as we look forward to the future, where do you see opportunities for growth in LGBTQ plus representation? What genres or spaces should we focus on to continue this momentum?
So I'm going to go back and pivot to Disney. Because I feel like Disney has everything under the umbrella, and it's like one day maybe they'll buy everything under their umbrella because they have so much money to do it.
On their way.
Yeah. But I don't think they're not pushing it. They're not pushing it's not even pushing an agenda. It's just like portraying what is and what is now more socially acceptable, not in this country and really in a lot of parts in the world. And we had when Don't Say Gay came out, Disney took a long time to do anything about it, to stand up against that law, because they were afraid of what happened, which was the governor went against the company. But Safe Schools actually took kids we partnered with AHF, and we bused kids to Disney to do the protest. And we like to think that because of that, Disney changed its tone, changed its course, and that was a great win for us. But still, Disney doesn't showcase true, authentic LGBTQ plus representation. And we've spoken a little bit about this, but I want to throw in here that even in Marvel movies, when there is, it's so tiny and so small that it doesn't really matter. And I know that they're afraid to lose money in markets like China and Russia and other parts of the world. But America is supposed to be, or we like to think of ourselves as this place that we export our Americanness, our specialness to the outside world, and we export human rights to the outside world. And yet here you see Disney just taking a step back because they're more worried about money than they are worried about actually showcasing American values or the values of the West into these other spaces. And it's not just Marvel movies. You also have in Star Wars. Star Wars has such an opportunity to be more queer, to really showcase, like what you're saying, in space, everything is possible. So why not? Why not take that risk? And we know why they don't take the risk, but let's push them.
I think the reason why they don't take the risk is exactly what you said, money.
Yeah.
And the only way that I think we're really going to change that is if we put more queer people in those spaces.
But the thing is, Disney's full of queer people. A lot of the writers, the animators, all these people that, of course, there's a lot of queerness happening in Disney, but the people who are producing it are not being represented in the work that they're producing.
Exactly.
And then you also have in the 90s, I mean, you have the very, a lot of these people, especially in Beauty and the Beast, the writer,
the
writer for the music, he
and
was,
Little
Howard Ash.
no, he died of HIV, died of AIDS, and it was so unfortunate that during this time, all of the only queerness that we saw in these movies were villains, Jafar, Scar, or Ursula, based on a drag queen.
Divine.
Yeah,
Divine.
like
yes.
that's not nice. I mean, and I get it. It was a time and a space, but I don't know.
I think I heard rainbow capitalism talked about it.
Yeah.
Times. I think like Disney, it's almost becoming laughable, but I feel like every time they almost in a weird way shoe in something of the LGBTQ persuasion, it's always about making a headline. Beauty and the Beast live action, the first openly gay character in a Disney film.
Yes.
Then Ursula, the first original gay character in a live action Disney film. Which Cruella was that was an original piece. You could have done plenty with that, and they kind of threw it in as a stereotypical head dressing type individual. But I like me some headlines sometimes. Love, Simon. First, I'm surprised that movie hasn't been discussed. Right. I think those are the type of movies that need to be pumped out a lot more. As far as younger individuals being able to resonate with them.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Marvel. I mean, at this point, what does Marvel have to lose? I mean, have you seen the box office performances of their last movies?
Right.
They should really shake it up at this point because they got nothing to lose.
I mean, Disney markets so much to the queer community. They literally have a Pride Night now that they just made. But other than like Disney, me and Tiffany talk about books all the time, and I was telling Tiff recently, I'm like, girl, I need some more trans love stories. We have all these like gay, lesbian, cisgender love stories. I need to see myself find my Prince Charming in a book.
Yeah.
And I think books is definitely a place that we need to reach more media.
Yeah, I'm definitely, to piggyback off of that, how many books turn into movies? Let's be honest. Multiple. Some are even a whole franchise. They imploded on the screen. And what Taya is saying is so important. And it's like, yes, there is not that representation, and even in media, but also in books, in comic books and manga. We're getting there, but it's like we're not there yet. But it's like there's such a high demand for it. But everyone's just kind of like scared to put out the first step forward, because that's literally it. Everybody, it's like a big game of chicken. Who's going first? Who's going to be the first one to lead? Because then they're going to see by example. If it turns up in flames, they're like, well, I can't now put this out because it didn't work out for this person. But it's like, but that's the whole point of art. Because let's be honest, all that we've been talking about is basically a bunch of art that we get to consume all the time.
Yeah.
And art is meant to be expressed. And there is no putting your finger on it and explaining it. It's just like, this is how I express myself. This is the story I want to portray. And it is what it is.
It's art showcasing the human experience. The human experience is diverse as we are. And I feel like growing up, there weren't shows like Heartstoppers or Love, Simon. I feel like if I watch these shows and it's almost like, oh man, I wish I had this, because then my feelings would have been validated, and I could have been more willing to be more of my authentic self in high school, in middle school. When I fell in love in middle school with a boy. I wish I could have had that. And even though I didn't have it, I still saw my feelings reflected in the relationships of straight people in media. So if I can see myself reflected in that, I'm sure straight people can see themselves reflected in relationship with queer people in media as well, because they're talking about something that is beyond our gender, beyond our sexuality, beyond our expressions. They're talking about the human connection of love, which is genderless, which is sexless. I mean, it's just it's everything encompass of who we are, our ways to connect.
And
I hope
that moving forward, we tell different queer stories.
Yes.
Not just with the identities, but also with how we are as people. Because I feel like every time I see a queer story, well, when I was a young adult, it's changing a lot now. But when I was a teenager, they were all coming out stories. And I'm just like, okay, girl, what are we gonna do once they're out? Like, they're just gonna not be on the show anymore. Let's see what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is the after effect? Because I think that's one part that, like, when you do come out, you actually finally have the courage to come out, and it's either going to be really good or it's not going to be, as great. But it's like, how do you live after that point?
Yeah.
And some of these youth don't even know what to do. They're like, because either they're afraid, and if they do come out, they're like, okay, now what? Like, where are the other steps? And getting to see that even in a show or in a movie, being like, yeah, no, girl, I've been out for a long time. This is how you're gonna get through it, And really, it's like, that's the whole point of life. It's just a bunch of people giving each other advice, and especially in our community where you have some youth that are disconnected to the older generation, and the older generation doesn't understand the younger generation. I'm like, we all live the same narrative, the same storyline. We're in just different timelines, but like, your wisdom is gonna help them, and they can enlighten you and be like, oh man, like, I did that too when I was your age, And it's just, again, like you said, it's just a human experience.
And I think that showcasing chosen families is really important. Like, dismantling this whole concept that family is a very specific, Hallmark movie-esque thing, and focusing more on, like, family is messy, and family is not just blood. It can be, people that become family to you. So I think that something that needs also to be, like, really showcased and pushed when it comes to our media. But before, as I was talking about this, I want to challenge us, like, if you can think of what would you like to see happen, like, in a specific example. So for me, my specific example is, I wish there was a love story between a variation, for now that we're all about the multiverse, a variation of a multiverse where Superboy falls in love with Robin. I think that would be an amazing movie, or an amazing show, like series or something. So that's my wish for the universe. So if anyone's listening, come on, WB, let's do this. What about you?
Oh man, I think for me, I would just like to see a representation of just bisexual people, not be the contagious flirt and just being like super promiscuous and like sex crazed. And I'm like, we're not like that. No, at least not all of us. Like, we're like, we want love, but I think I would just love to see, like, a representation of a young queer youth finding out that they're bisexual, and like how they kind of go about that, especially as a bisexual man. Like, I know like, a lot of people talk about bisexual women, but like, they're like, oh, there's also men that are also bisexual, and they don't even get any, if not even spoken about.
Well, I know we talked about them so much, but Heartstopper, actually, one of the characters is bisexual.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen that show, so that's why I can't really speak too much on that. But it's those things of just seeing the humanity and not seeing the stereotype of somebody. And to me, I'm just like, I would love to see that. I know that we can be flirtatious, but we're not out here stealing people's, like, partners left and right. And we're not the unicorn to their relationship.
Oh, yeah. What are you, Dan?
For me, I think where media can evolve and push the limit is in representation in diverse sexuality, sexual experiences, and fetish and kink. There's that Netflix show, I think it's called Bonding.
Yeah, that's such a good show.
It's such a good show. Yeah. And I think it was so bold and brave to introduce to the world what sexuality can look like and what sex can look like in a very affirmative, fun way that so many people participate in, and there's so much shame around it. At the same time, people are afraid to talk about what interests them sexually, and there's so much diversity and representation that can happen.
Yeah, or The Travelers, that new show.
Fellow Travelers. I
mean, that show is good, and it's showcasing a time in our history that was very dark, but then you see that we've always existed. We existed then, we will exist now. We exist now, and we will exist in the future. So, Eddie, do you have any example?
Yeah, well, aside from a gay Spider-Man, I would like to see like, more honest representation about like true love that's not hypersexualized. Like kind of the one we saw in The Last of Us, that was very romantic, and I think even if you were like homophobic, you would have still felt the emotion they felt. So I want more stories like that, especially now during the Christmas time. I want more holiday gay movies too, because I love those Hallmark movies, but I want like LGBT representation in those also.
Yes, and it was, I'm doing this research for holiday movies to put out soon, and I have a very hard time finding like Black queer holiday stories. It's been like it's so hard to find, and there's a few, but most of it are white couples that go to a small town, big city boy meets small town boy, or big city girl meets small town girl, and there's not enough diversity in that. So that was something to piggyback on that.
I mean, I think and I know I alluded to this a few times, and I totally agree with everything that everybody said. What kind of always interested me in, I think I'm gonna probably focus more on live action film, is how there could be more normalcy in a gay lesbian relationship, just where they don't even announce it on the screen. I mean, this is honestly a horrible movie. It's called, the remake is The Stepfather, which came out in 2009. There was a lesbian couple in it. There was no big announcement. They're just chilling with the stepdad and his wife at the dinner table, just talking. They don't announce it. And I always kind of was like, wow, they're not, they're not falling into any stereotype. They're just there, and they're characters in the movie just like everybody else. That's what I really would like to see, where it doesn't have to be such an announcement. It doesn't have to be such a they have these characters. Now they're just at the table like everybody else, performing their their role just like everybody else.
It's like breaking news.
Yeah, no breaking news. Just hello.
I'll just say mine real quick. I want to see more trans people in love. That's what I want to see.
All right, thanks everyone for your insightful perspectives.